Good morning, everyone. My name is Emma Hunt and I'm the Head of PayPal Small Business here at PayPal Australia. I'm delighted to welcome you to the Driving Business Online, How to Market Your Online Business webinar, sponsored by PayPal and brought to you in partnership with Flying Solo this morning. For everyone online this morning, I don't need to tell you that technology is driving a huge amount of change in the way we do almost everything. And the way we shop is one of the first areas that we're seeing huge change in. There's enormous growth happening in Australia's e-commerce market, and we're seeing growth rates in Australian e-commerce move from single-digit rates in 2009 to 11 and 12% growth rates in 2010, 2011. And the other big thing that's happening in the last 12 months has been the explosion of mobile commerce, as more and more of us use iPhones and iPads and other smartphones to shop online. And we're seeing that sales via mobile devices has grown around 500% year on year, which is just extraordinary. So not only is the market growing at a rapid rate, but there's also quite a significant change in the model happening. And the lines across traditional online and offline retail channels are blurring as we see the emergence of multi-channel or even omni-channel retail models. Situations where we research a product online, we then might buy it online but pick up in store, or we're actually in store and we buy online in a store and have the items that we've just bought delivered. So our customers are using lots of different ways to research products that they want to buy and then ultimately buy and have those items delivered. And as businesses, we need to make sure that we're where our customers are. And this isn't straightforward. These webinars and indeed the Driving Business Online program are designed to help you, to keep you informed of the trends that we're seeing across the e-commerce market. And we hope to provide you with information to help drive your business forward and succeed in this really exciting space. In the last month, we've relaunched the Driving Business Online Roadshow, holding events in Parramatta and Canberra with close to 400 businesses joining us. And a common question we're being asked is, well, okay, I've got a website, so I'm online. Now, how do I make sure my website is being found by people? How do I make sure I'm where my customers are? And what should my marketing strategy look like? So I'm really pleased to be joined this morning by Michelle Gamble, Chief Angel at Marketing Angels, and Andy Huang, who heads up small and medium business marketing for Facebook across the Asia region. They will share with you their expert views on how to market your online business. But first, let me introduce Robert Gerrish from Flying Solo, who will then introduce our guest speakers. Robert is the founder of Flying Solo, Australia's micro-business community with 50,000 members. He's a popular keynote speaker himself and has been a commentator on ABC Four Corners, Sky Business and ABC Radio, and has co-authored the best-selling book Flying Solo, How to Go It Alone in Business. Flying Solo are working closely with PayPal on our Driving Business Online program. Robert, good morning.
Good morning, Emma. Thank you so much. Well, we'll be hearing more from you a little later. And a big thank you to everyone who's listening. I'm sure you're going to learn heaps from the fine speakers we have lined up for you. Now, we'll be taking a couple of questions at the close of each speaker's presentation, so please be sure to use the Ask a Question tab on the right of your screen during the webinar. I should tell you we won't be able to get to every question, but fear not, we'll share direct contact details for each speaker at the close so the conversation can continue. I'd also reassure you that this webinar is being recorded and we'll send you a link to that recording within the next couple of days. Okay, let's get moving. Our first segment is from Michelle Gamble, who's the founder and chief angel of Marketing Angels. Michelle is an entrepreneur who's built Marketing Angels from the ground up after starting it from her spare bedroom 10 years ago. Her business has a team of consultants in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Perth, and has grown into Australia's leading marketing agency for small to medium businesses, providing marketing education, advice, and outsourced marketing management. Before starting Marketing Angels in 2001, Michelle was part of the internet marketing revolution in Australia, working with both Telstra and Optus across their internet products. She's a regular blogger for Dynamic Business, writes a monthly column in Australia's leading franchise magazine, and is a board member of the entrepreneurs organisation Sydney and the Children's Medical Research Institute. So to outline her presentation and firmly immerse us into the world of online marketing, I'd like to welcome Michelle Gamble.
Thank you, Robert, and also PayPal for the opportunity to share some thoughts on marketing your online business today. I'm aware that there are some really diverse businesses attending today, so I'm going to give some brief and relevant information on the branding and design considerations that apply specifically to online businesses, the role and importance of search engine optimisation, otherwise known as SEO, how to build a customer database for email newsletter marketing, and some tips to make sure that marketing is effective. And then we'll get on to social networking and some do's and don'ts for using social media. And then finally, I'll sum up with a little chat about paid online advertising options.
Fantastic.
Some specific things to note when it comes to branding and design, specifically for online businesses. When designing, it's really important that you think through how much space your logo is going to take up on your website. So the more real estate it takes up, the less room you have to promote whatever it is you're trying to sell. And it's really becoming best practice now for online businesses to keep the branding small so you can use most of the space on your site to give the user what they want. So when you're looking at your branding, it needs to work on a screen in a smallish size. And then even if it's not stated, it's really important to have a clear and compelling brand promise. It's how you differentiate yourself from your competitors. So if you look at Zappos, they're one of the most successful online retail businesses in the US, and their brand promise is all about delivering happiness. Their tagline here that you can see, powered by service, is really brought to life by their key messages displayed right at the top of their site. They promise free next day shipping. They've got a 365-day return policy, an actual phone number right on the front page for customer service, and all of that really brings that brand promise to life. Compare that to Magna Mail, which is a long-established mail order business here in Australia. Their promise is, we've been established since 1974, so you should trust us. I'm not sure I really believe that. I ordered something from these guys actually, and it took about 14 days to turn up. Now I live in Manly and this business is based in Brookvale, so I rang the customer service line after I'd waited a few days just to be told that there was a really long call queue. So then I hung up and had a dig around the website to find out about delivery times. And when I checked, I found out that there was a 21-day delivery time guarantee. So that being shipped from Brookvale to Manly was quite a shock. I'd expect that if it was coming from Siberia.
What about 8 kilometres?
Exactly, yeah, insane. So I guess my point is that if you're delivering an online service, be really clear on what online shoppers value and build that into your brand promise. Then bring it to life with the customer experience. Having a key search term as part of your brand name is also something you might want to consider, and it's really going to help with your search engine optimization ranking. It's not essential, but it will put you ahead of your competitors if it's included, and it'll also mean you spend less money on advertising to appear prominently in search terms, as seen here with freelancer.com. It's also really important that your brand has its own personality, particularly with online businesses. There's no face-to-face contact with your customers, there's no shop front. The way you speak to your customers in your contact, through the transaction process, in any customer support conversations and social media is really critical to their experience of your brand. So now just moving on to the role and importance of search engine optimization. So SEO, or search engine optimization, is the process of optimizing your website and doing other things out on the internet to make sure that you rank highly in search engines when people are using a particular keyword that's relevant to your product or business. It's really critical to sales and also making sure that you're not spending loads of money on marketing. So users are 75% more likely to click on an organic search result than a paid ad. So SEO is always going to be more effective for you than advertising. It's also going to be more enduring. Any effort you put into SEO will continue to deliver leads ongoingly. And last, but of course not least, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You can outsource to an expert, which will cost money, but it's not essential.
I should just dive in there, Michelle, and just let people know that the Driving Business Online website has a great deal of resources as well, covering SEO and other topics in more detail. So I'll come back to that again later.
Great. So just moving on from that, by far the most important element in SEO is understanding what search terms your ideal customers use when they're searching for your product or service. And the best way to find this out is by using some of the tools that allow you to undertake keyword research. I like the Google AdWords keyword research tool. You can see a screen grab of this here. There's others out there, but I find this one sufficient for my needs. So SEO is broken into on-page activities and off-page activities. On-page activities relate to things like the content of your website, what's written on there, what platform your website's built in, some of the information in the actual code of your website, and without going into too much detail, some of the main things to note with your website and SEO are it's really important when putting headings on your site to use text versus images. There are some great fonts out there now, which means your headings can look beautiful and stylish, but you don't want them to be graphics as Google can't read them. Don't use the same page title as well for each page. Describe specifically the content on each page, and similarly with page descriptions. Use real words as well that describe the content on the page or the product featured on the page versus auto-generated number URLs. So sometimes when you go to a website, you'll see there's a number on the end of the website address. You want to stay away from those. Make sure that your content is really keyword rich with relevant content. And also tag all of your images with a description. So when you're uploading images into your website, make sure that you put descriptions on there so that if people roll over the image, some words pop up saying what's on there.
Again, let me just dive in there just to reassure people. A lot of information coming through this morning. This webinar is being recorded. You will be able to access it within a couple of days, and you'll be able to review it and listen to it over and over again. So thank you, Michelle. Sorry, Karen.
Great, that's okay. Look, the list is really endless of things you can do to improve your SEO, but these are just some of the main things. Now moving on to off-page tips. Really what we're talking about here is having lots of references out on the internet to your site and to your brand, and this is also going to really improve your SEO ranking. So the key thing is to be actively generating content for your site, but also making sure that you're distributing that out across the internet. So this is where things like PR comes in, and making sure that you don't forget online publications as well as print publications. Also making sure that you're distributing any press releases to sites like PR Newswire, which are online media distribution sites. Running a blog on your site is a great idea, but also guest blogging on other sites. Using video, uploading that to YouTube and other video sharing sites like Vimeo will create important backlinks to your site. And then also, you know, if you're a member of any association, making sure you're making the most of any online directories and putting all your details and website links in there. And of course, using social media is really important as well. We've got a great client, OpenShed. They're a recent startup site. They're an online business, and they do this stuff very well. So I suggest checking them out and seeing how well they're doing it.
What's the nature of their business, out of interest?
They help people rent out the stuff in their shed that doesn't get used. So, you know, if you need a hedge trimmer for a day, you can go onto OpenShed and find someone in your local area who'll rent theirs out to you.
Okay, so they're good examples of a lot of the things you're talking about.
Yeah. But for SEO to be really effective, you absolutely need to be measuring it. And Google Analytics is a really great free tool that I'm sure lots of you are already using, but perhaps you don't set up goals in Google Analytics. You should be using the goals section in Analytics and then measuring goal conversion. So that's really looking at if your goal is to get someone to buy a certain product, how many people come through via certain keywords and complete that goal.
And again, some very good tutorials, I think, within Google Analytics to help you get your head around all this.
Yes, there is. And there are also tools out there that allow you to track leads and sales by search terms. So at Marketing Angels, we use a CRM system called Zoho that actually allows us to track leads by search terms and then subsequently dollar value. So you can see here this lead came from a Google search using the keyword hotel marketing consultant, and this gives me really important information on keywords that deliver the most revenue to my business.
Fantastic.
So now moving on to email marketing, which is slightly less technical, luckily.
Phew.
Many people really see email marketing as old hat, but it really is often the thing that actually builds your business value more than anything else. So if you think of sites like Spreets, they're really successful because of their massive email databases. So doing email marketing and constantly building your database is really important. There are some great email marketing tools out there that are really cost effective and provide you with great options for segmenting and also have really good reporting. I'm a fan of MailChimp, which I use for my business, but there's lots of other online mediums I use also to help build my database. So I talked about our CRM system before. It's got a form on our website. And leads that fill our inquiry form are asked if they'd like to subscribe to the newsletter, and then we import those lists into MailChimp. We also make sure any other leads that come in via networking or the phone are added. We promote our newsletter on Facebook and Twitter and invite people to subscribe, likewise with LinkedIn. And we also regularly run our own webinars and invite people to subscribe to our newsletter as part of the content. And then we post recordings of those webinars on SlideShare, and again, that's got links to our newsletter. So it's constantly feeding people
So basically,
in.
every way you interact, you're trying
Yeah.
to draw those people.
Exactly.
Just a little gentle reminder to listeners that any questions that you may have for Michelle as we go through, please just add them into the right-hand side of your pane on the screen there, and we'll get to questions at the end of Michelle's presentation.
Great.
Thank you.
So that's where we promote it online, but we also promote it everywhere else. So things like business cards, your email signatures, whenever we speak at speaking gigs and events, we invite people to subscribe to our newsletter online. And of course, you should be promoting it on your website and generally asking everyone you meet if they'd like to stay on top of what you're doing by receiving your newsletter. The next step is making sure your email marketing is effective and you're not getting a lot of people unsubscribing. I've found that if I split up my acquisition and retention emails, we get a lot better result every time we send out an email. So if you're promoting an offer, just promote the offer. If you're sending out a newsletter, just send interesting content without the sales pitch. You might include a small ad or something, but keep the content useful. So social media is really changing the way we all interact with each other, and the options can actually be quite overwhelming, I think. But done well, it can be a really great brand builder, which does lead to sales. So social media is important, but I think often we skip over that customer experience is more so. So it's really important to make looking after your customers your number one priority over gaining, X number of followers. Loyal and engaged customers that rave about you will amplify your social media efforts. Unhappy customers will sabotage your social media efforts. So it's really important just to make sure, you're really looking after the customer.
Pour lots of love.
Yes. There's lots of options when it comes to social media. By far, Facebook is the most popular. However, platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn can be more relevant influencers to your market. So, for example, you might use Facebook to grow your brand awareness and engagement with your end customers. You might use LinkedIn to target key decision makers who could become channel partners, target potential employees, advertise jobs, or find a mentor or even an investor. You might use Twitter to specifically raise your profile amongst key journalists for PR purposes. And Google+, I'm not quite sure about yet, but it seems to be adopted by early adopters. Sites like YouTube, Instagram and Pinterest can be great ways to feed your social media activities with really good visual content. And of course, there's all the group buying sites like Spritz, Kudo, Groupon and Living Social. And these can be a really good way to get people to experience your product or service to create an initial base of customers or fans. A word of caution though, these can attract people who are only loyal to discounts and not necessarily your product or service. So you need to approach that carefully.
That's just in the group buying space you're talking about.
In the group buying space. And of course, it's important to mention Google Places, which is a free listing service for local businesses. It is becoming more and more influential in search as users can post reviews of local businesses on your listings. So good reviews and lots of reviews are going to really help with you appearing more prominently in search engines. So it's important to pay attention to that one too. When it comes to social media, the first place to start is to get really clear on what you want to get out of it. So if it's just to grow brand awareness, then you want a goal around likes or followers. If you're tracking how people found out about you, you should be able to also track sales and revenue. You might also track reviews from customers, or you might simply just want to use social media to improve your search results. A business like OpenShed on their Facebook page, when someone's looking for a particular product or tool, they promote it on Facebook to help drive transactions through their site.
I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more from Andy shortly as well about what we can do with Facebook.
Yes. But you should be integrating any social media you're doing with other online activities. So obviously adding social media links to your website. If you're doing regular email marketing, have prominent links in your email newsletters. And posting relevant video on YouTube will provide important links back to your site. I'd also recommend checking out Google Alerts, and this can help you get clear on Any content that might provide an opportunity for you to target someone via social media. So perhaps if you're selling chocolate online and someone's mentioning chocolate or written a blog about chocolate, you could reach out to them. Also think through any offline activities you might leverage. So if you've had positive reviews published or articles written about you, you can share them on your social media site. Also making sure you're adding social media links to any brochures, business cards, any offline advertising. And you could also use any radio or TV advertising perhaps to promote a Facebook competition, which then means you're drawing people who've seen that ad to Facebook to help you grow your social media following and also the base of people you can market to ongoingly. It's important to fan any competitor sites also, just to keep track of what they're doing on social media. Again, here Google Alerts is really good for this. You can set up alerts on competitor brand names to stay on top of any articles or mentions on the internet. And sometimes they can provide really important information, obviously, and also inspiration.
So when you say fan competitor sites, you're talking about liking them, following them, just to make sure that you're aware what they're,
stalking
what
them,
they're up to.
stalking them online.
Okay.
Exactly. It's also really important that you've got a plan for how often you're going to post and what you're going to post about. So at Marketing Angels, we do a small business marketing tip of the day, which we publish every day. Some of the hardest things about social media is just coming up with ideas of what to post. So a theme will help you. We also occasionally share other articles we find online, which might be of interest. It doesn't always have to be your own content. And I blog fortnightly, as I said, for Dynamic Business Magazine and share those blogs on Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. So anything you're doing out there, share them across your social media networks. And it doesn't always have to be serious either. So every Friday we choose a wine time song and we post that up online, and I know people look forward to that. It's just something that's a bit of fun. So, but the main thing is know how often you're going to post and have a theme or system for what you'll be posting, and then it makes it much easier to maintain and be consistent. And if you're using multiple social media platforms, you can use dashboards like Hootsuite and TweetDeck to do one post and then choose which sites you want to syndicate that out to.
Consistency is such a big thing, isn't it, with particularly with social networking?
It's huge. It's huge. And it's also important to make the most of what's topical. So you might make sure you make the most of any major events and, of course, in your industry, seasonal or topical happenings. So here, this is some of our staff having a short drink before we break for the Easter weekend, and you can see here that they've got their bunny ears on, and this is something we posted up on Facebook.
At 9 o'clock in the morning, I guess.
No, not quite. You could run offers around peak holiday periods like Easter, the end of the financial year. If you're running events, promote them on Facebook, particularly if it's things like, around Australia Day, the Olympics, even the grand final. Whatever's topical right now. And if you plan those well in advance, you're less likely to miss any opportunities. So once you've started a rhythm of updates, and importantly, if you've progressed to, say, running competitions and perhaps doing Facebook ads, it's important you measure how you're tracking. You'll learn more about this from Andy, of course, but Facebook in particular makes it really easy, providing real-time online reports, and you can measure things like comments, reach, how many people are reading your posts, and even traffic to your website if you're using tools, again, like Google Analytics. In terms of getting it all done, this can all sound pretty overwhelming, but you should really think through how you're going to resource social media. So you can do it yourself or outsource it perhaps to people who manage social media sites. You can also access freelancers and assistance from all over the world through sites like Freelance, Odesk and Elance. I've mentioned it before, but Google Alerts is also a great tool for finding inspiration for your posts. Having a plan makes it much easier for you to provide a specific brief to anyone you might want to outsource your page to, and you can access good assistance for as little as $5 an hour, so worth looking into if you're game. I do suggest, though, before outsourcing, do it yourself for a little while just to get a feel for it, so you can get a feel for what's working or not working. Finally, a quick overview of paid advertising. There's loads of sites you could advertise on, but I'm just going to focus on the key ones which I find are the most likely to be effective and they're measurable. So there's not many online businesses really that Google AdWords would not be effective for. So I'm showing here where all the ads appear on Google. But you really do need to do your keyword research to make sure you're using specific search terms that accurately describe what you offer. And this is going to make sure you don't burn a lot of your cash on clicks that don't lead to sales. I'd set up Google Analytics as well, like with SEO, and track your conversion. That way you're going to know exactly what ads and search terms lead to the most revenue for you. It's not a set and forget medium. You need to be diligent with tracking and optimising your campaigns. Google display ads are a fairly new thing, but they can also really increase the conversion of visitors that you're currently getting to your website to sales. So these ads are displayed across the Google Display Network. They're banner ads, and they're designed to be served to people who've already visited your site. So what they do is really increase the awareness of your brand to people who've already expressed an interest in your product or service, meaning that when they're ready, they're more likely to buy from you versus a competitor, and they are also really cost effective, so it's worth investigating some of these. Finally, I'm also a big fan of Facebook ads. They're really cost effective and they're highly targeted. You can target by age, location, sex, and also specific interests. They work really well when you've already got a decent fan base, as they can be displayed specifically to friends of people who already like your page. And I think they work best when the goal is to build probably likers to your page versus to try and sell your product directly. Your goal really should be to build fans of your brand who you can then engage further with the aim of them eventually buying from you. So that's it from me. That's a lot of information, so I hope I haven't overwhelmed people.
But I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle. And a lot of information. As I say, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll share that with people in the next few days. So that's good news, I'm sure. We've had quite a few questions coming through, and I've got a couple that I'd like to throw at you, if I may. Firstly, what sort of manpower do you think is needed to manage a website and manage online marketing, email newsletters, social media? Imagine a business that's kind of just getting into this space. In terms of manpower, hours, what do you reckon?
Look, I think if you devoted 2 to 3 hours solidly a week, you could probably manage a lot of your social media efforts and your online marketing efforts to start with, because you're not going to have a lot of pages, you're not going to have a lot of content.
Sure.
You could start with something as simple as a weekly blog.
Okay.
And perhaps just have a
But I think the
Facebook
key
page.
thing, it sounds to me, there is to block out time for it.
Yes.
And make it a regular part of your business, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's not,
Exactly. And as a startup, you should have a bit of time on your hands. But as you grow, that's when you might want to consider outsourcing. But if you've got a good system in place, it's going to be easy to do that.
And it's interesting, isn't it? When you personally, when I go to a website and I see they've got a blog or they're active on social media or they say they are, the first thing I do is go and have a look and say, hey, when did this person last post? When did they last write? And if it's February 2009, it sends out some signals, doesn't it? Anyway,
does.
Okay, another question that's come through. With regard to blogging and social media and email marketing, is it good, do you think, to duplicate content across all of these, or is it more effective to kind of tailor and write content for different channels? I can see the benefit, obviously, in using the same stuff everywhere, but what's your take on that?
Look, I think duplicating content is a really sensible idea, but you might not always duplicate the same content across everything. So perhaps something you've written for Facebook is not necessarily appropriate for LinkedIn, but I think duplicating it is a great idea. And a lot of your customers, won't necessarily read email newsletters, but they might look at their Facebook feed, or they might prefer LinkedIn to Facebook. So, by syndicating that content across other platforms, you're going to make sure you get a good readership.
Yeah, okay. And I guess, again, the thing there is just to stop for a second and think, okay, who is this going to, and what's my sort of expectations to how people may interact with me?
Exactly.
Okay, another great question we've got here. How much should a small business budget, do you think, for social media and SEO? So I guess this is tied up to some extent into the time commitment, but budget for a small business, SEO, social media, any thoughts?
Well, you don't need to have a budget. I mean, SEO you can do yourself.
Hang on, that's a marketing person who's just said, you don't need a budget. This is refreshing.
Well, I think SEO you can do yourself, but you need to allocate time. So I think time is what you need to budget in the early days versus money. And similarly with social media, if you were going to budget anything in the early days, I'd probably look at sort of maybe Facebook ads as a way to build up your fan base. And look, you can advertise from as little as $10 a day.
I think I can hear Andy just singing in the background there, the joy at that. Okay, and final question for you, Michelle. What's the single most effective online marketing that you undertake in your business?
Search engine optimization by far.
Is that
yeah,
right?
hands down. We get 50% of our business through our search presence.
Fantastic. Well, look, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on this webinar. I know that when we get to the end of the presentation, we'll have your contact details, so anybody that would like to talk with you further can do so, but thank you for sharing your time with us. And let me carry on moving forwards.
Thank you, and thank you, PayPal.
Okay, well, as you can see already, we have a lot of fine information today. I will remind you yet again that you'll receive a link to a full recording of this webinar within the next few days, so you can review the content at your leisure, time and time again. And I'd strongly recommend you visit the Driving Business Online website, which is at www.drivingbusinessonline.com.au, where you can access articles, case studies, videos to support your online business. At the DBO site, you'll also find the dates and locations of the regional seminars that are being staged around the country. And if you come along, please come up and say hello, because I'll be there. Right, well, now waiting patiently on the end of the phone in Singapore, or at least I sincerely hope he is Facebook's Andy Huang, Head of Small and Medium Business Marketing for the Asia-Pacific region. Andy leads the team focused on helping small businesses succeed on Facebook. Prior to joining Mr. Zuckerberg and his team, Andy spent several years at Google, most recently as Head of Small Business Marketing for Latin America. He's previously worked at Yahoo as a Customer Marketing Manager for their online communications products and at Accenture as a consultant in their high-tech strategy practice. Andy holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of California and an MBA from the Wharton School. Well, I don't know about you, but I've decided I like Andy already. Andy, thanks for joining us. Your time starts now.
Robert, thanks so much for having me, and to the entire PayPal team. Really excited to be able to speak with everyone today about small and medium businesses and how businesses like yours can be successful on Facebook. So just wanted to talk with you a bit. Our goal today during my time is to really help you understand the Facebook platform and help businesses like yours better connect with prospects and customers and fans, while also helping you to drive traffic and sales to your business. Michelle touched on this a little bit earlier, but she said that businesses primarily use Facebook to get fans and to build likes, and over time to engage these fans into driving direct response or sales, and I think that's definitely a fair statement and one that I would agree with.
Fantastic.
In terms of understanding how Facebook works as a business platform, our lives are made up of connections to the people and things that we care about, and I think first to understand using Facebook as a social media part of your business, first need to understand how it works to you as a Facebook user. And I imagine many of you might be already using Facebook as a day-to-day user, but not as familiar with how Facebook is from a business standpoint. When you think about business on Facebook, first look at it from the user standpoint and how you use it as a user. The people that you see on Facebook and you interact with include your family, classmates, teammates, coworkers, and people from your hometown. And the things that you interact with include songs, foods, businesses, sports, hobbies, and places. And today I want to talk to you about how Facebook is helping to build these essential connections, and because of these connections, also talk about how you can grow your business with Facebook. Here you can see the connections from Andy's life, and this is just a picture of Andy's timeline or his profile page. You can see his friends, photos, and also where he's been. It also shows the businesses that he cares about. And Andy recently connected with Community Coffee, as you can see on the right side, after hearing about them from a friend. And now, because of that relationship, Community Coffee can directly communicate with Andy. let's use an illustration with circles. I know we're waiting for the slide to come up, but as Robert said, we'll be sending out a recording to this presentation afterwards. So using an illustration with circles, let's talk about how Facebook helps connect Community Coffee with Andy and his friends. Andy first became a customer of Community Coffee, and his friends then heard about Community Coffee from Andy, and some of them also engaged with the business and became customers. This type of word-of-mouth advertising is really nothing new. Community Coffee has been a family-owned business for 4 generations, based out of Louisiana in the U.S. 50 years ago, you can imagine they would have relied on the same word-of-mouth recommendations from people coming into their store, enjoying their coffee, and then telling their friends about it, either in person or perhaps over the phone. Where Facebook has changed things is by making these word-of-mouth recommendations and connections happen much more quickly to all of their friends at once. And at Facebook, this is what we call the power of word of mouth at scale.
And Andy, do you find that actually for anyone listening who might be moving into Facebook, perhaps for the first time, that to consider it and think of it as word of mouth is the right way to kind of view it?
We think it's first, Robert, great question. We think, first of all, it's just having businesses establish a presence on Facebook. That'll be the first step that I talk about in a bit, which is building a page. And then when you start having fans interact with your brand, then all of their friends see those interactions as well. So each user on Facebook has on average 130 friends rather, and each of those friends are eligible to see any interaction that a friend has with a particular business. So when I say word of mouth, it really is having the actions that you take with a particular business or thing be communicated to all of your friends at once. That's what we mean by word of mouth at scale.
Fantastic.
People on Facebook we see are already connecting with their favorite businesses, as Andy connected previously to Community Coffee, and telling their friends which businesses and products they love. 80% of consumers said that they were more likely to try new things based on friend suggestion made in social media. Today on Facebook, there are over 950 million people sharing the things that they care about and liking, commenting on 3.2 billion posts per day. Now, I'll take a step back and talk to you about, just give you an example of how a business like Community Coffee would think about establishing their presence on Facebook. Out of the 950 million people on Facebook, not necessarily all of them will be relevant to Community Coffee because they are interested in selling coffee online as well as bring people into their stores. If Community Coffee chose to sell into the Australian market, for example, they could target the 400,000 people in Australia over the age of 18 who said that they liked coffee. As Michelle alluded to earlier, Facebook allows you to target users not only by geography or by age, but also by interest. So when we looked at how many people liked coffee in Australia over the age of 18, we quickly whittled down the number of people who might be interested in your brand from 950 million down to 400,000. They targeted everyone in Australia because they wanted to get these Australian users to connect to their page and purchase coffee from their online store. Now, if we take another example and say they didn't have an online store, but they had a physical store in Sydney, they could just as easily have targeted the 85,000 people in Sydney who said that they were interested in coffee to get these people to come into their retail stores. Now that I've talked a little bit about Community Coffee, just also wanted to start getting into what we at Facebook see as the 4 steps to success for every business that wants to establish a presence on Facebook. For businesses like yours, the 4 things that we suggest you do, first is to build a Facebook page. Second is to connect with new fans using Facebook ads. The third is really to use your page to engage with your fans and post quality content. And fourth is the word of mouth at scale that Robert and I discussed earlier, really using the Facebook platform to influence the friends of your fans. So now let's get started with step one, building your Facebook page. The first step of building your Facebook page is by filling in some basic information and then getting your current customers, employees, and friends to like your page. Once you do that, you can create your first post and start to engage your fans. One thing that I'll mention is that at Facebook, we pay attention to not only what our users, but also businesses are doing on our platform. And for businesses, even before we even talked about these 4 steps, we saw that businesses were having success on Facebook by doing these 4 things. And through interviews and through talking with them, we better understood why they did these 4 things and how it made their business successful. And from taking all of these different data points, then we use those to create the 4 steps that I'm talking about now. So step 1 is to build your Facebook page. Step 2 is to connect with fans using Facebook ads to build your customer base or the number of fans on your page. The second thing you'll want to do is to use ads to connect with your fans and build your fan base. Fans are an extremely important part of your business. When they interact with your page, they spread the word about your business to all of their friends. If you have 500,000 fans, for example, then you can have access to up to 40 million of their friends. Communication with your fans keeps them engaged. On average, fans are twice as likely as non-fans to report buying product from your store or visiting a store in the last week.
Andy, if I can just jump in there, for anyone listening where, as I say, maybe they're not stepping into Facebook yet, some of this may seem slightly overwhelming. There's a lot to do, but I know there's a stack of information online on Facebook to help walk people through setting up a page and indeed engaging in the way that you do. So there's a lot of background information to the kind of detail you're giving us, isn't there?
Absolutely, and we've got a couple of great online resources. Would recommend that everyone on the phone go to this new site that we've set up, facebook.com/marketinganz, and there you'll find more information about how businesses like yours are succeeding on Facebook, as well as the tips and tricks that we offer to businesses specifically in the Australian market.
Okay, terrific. I'll just remind people also that not to hold back on their questions. Please put those into the right of your screen. If you've got particular sort of personal questions, if we don't get to them, there will be contact details for each of the speakers at the close of the presentation, and also some of the most popular questions that we get during the webinar we'll put into a summary format and post on the Driving Business Online site very shortly under the webinar section. So sorry, Andy, back to you.
No problem. The third step after building a page and using ads to connect with your fans is all about engaging your fans with quality content. We recommend posting regularly, at least 1 to 2 times per week on your page, posting different types of quality content, such as pictures, polls, videos, and also asking questions to engage participation and highlighting your most important posts. One other avenue that we've seen a lot of businesses use to be successful with Facebook is for market research. For example, Community Coffee asked their fans of their page what type of discount they preferred and decided to offer them a percentage off shipping after consulting first with their fans. We've also seen businesses use their Facebook page for customer service, answering questions from fans on the page, or using the messages feature where fans can directly contact them with questions. Now, just getting to the fourth step, after engaging with your fans through quality content, the fourth step is all about virality and using word of mouth at scale. It's influencing the friends of your fans by promoting the social activity from your pages. So I know that's a mouthful, so let me explain what that means. You can extend the reach of your page posts by promoting this social activity to the friends of your fans. Here's an example of how that would work. First off, my colleague Eric likes your page. Secondly, this generates a story on the news feeds of Eric's friends. So this is Eric engaging with a business page, and then his friends start to see that activity on their own news feeds. And then lastly, by promoting this like for your page, this will show up as an ad on the right side or as a boosted post. We call these sponsored stories in the news feed of Eric's friends, or perhaps even on mobile devices. So those are really the 4 steps, and wanted just to rather than continuing to talk at a high level about how Community Coffee has been successful using Facebook, wanted just to give you 2 case studies of small and medium businesses like yours who have been very successful in the Australian market with their presence on Facebook. The first is Wine Market Australia. So they've set up an online wine shop on Facebook, and they use their page to promote discounts and also set up an e-commerce store where you can directly buy wines. They've seen fantastic results. They've been able to generate $15,000 a month from their e-commerce store, and they've actually seen purchases from their store coming from 3% of their fan base. We see this as just a great illustration that if you target your audience well, get them to become fans of your page, then these fans over time can also become a good source of sales. The second example I'll give is a fashion retailer called Mishka that set up shop on Facebook less than 2 years ago, and they set up a page on Facebook rather than going down the traditional route of setting up a website, because they thought that a Facebook page might be easier. 100% of their revenue is currently driven by Facebook, and they really use their Facebook page to prove out the viability of their business using Facebook. And now they've been able to secure 1,000 unique buyers, and they've had sales increase by 300% year over year. And their success has gotten to the point now where they've started a traditional website to complement their Facebook page to continue to extend the reach that they have to prospects and customers. The last slide I have is all about giving you more resources to learn about Facebook's 4 steps to business success. The first is the resource that I mentioned earlier. Now, I know that the 4 steps to success on Facebook might be overwhelming to some folks that are just getting started with Facebook or really haven't thought about using Facebook in the past for their business. Don't worry about that at all. Would recommend that you go to facebook.com/marketinganz, and there we give you tips and tricks for promoting your business on Facebook, and also show you how businesses like Wine Market Australia and Mishka, businesses in Australia, are having success on the Facebook platform. Secondly, and lastly, we've recently launched a Start to Success program for businesses in Australia to help them with signing up for Facebook. This program also includes having experts from Facebook that can handhold you through the process by helping you create your Facebook page and also setting up your first Facebook ads campaign to promote your business. To learn more about our Start to Success program, you can go to facebook.com/AU-Start to Success to learn more, and there's also a free $50 credit to get started when you enroll in the Start to Success program. So once again, Robert and PayPal team, I'll turn it back to you. Thanks so much for the invitation to speak, and hopefully all of you have learned a bit today about how to promote your business on Facebook.
Fantastic. Andy, please don't go away. We've got some piles of questions coming in for you, so thank you very much for your presentation. Let's dive into a couple of questions if I can. The first one, really interested to hear your response to this. Do you have any particular tips on getting people to actually like your page? What are some acceptable, successful ways of getting people to like your page? Any thoughts?
Absolutely. And the first thing that I would encourage businesses to think about is, how would you do this if you had a physical store, let's say in Sydney or Melbourne? If you opened a physical store, the first thing that you might do is to ask all of your friends and family to come into your store and let all their friends know about your products. And online, I think it's very much the same thing. So for businesses, we recommend that you think about yourself as a Facebook user each user on Facebook has 130 friends, and the first step is really to invite all of your friends to become fans of your business. Also, to think about the typical profile of your customers. If you have an offline store, in addition to your store, what sorts of things do they like? And then using that profile and demographic then to start running Facebook ads targeted to people like your existing customers who are more likely to become fans and later customers of your business.
Okay. And I think I know the answer to this question, but one question is, should I be asking my existing customers to visit and like my Facebook page? Well, I think you've answered that. The answer is a resounding yes, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's important to try and turn your existing customers into your Facebook fans as well, because when your customers come into your store, you want to try and have an ongoing relationship with them, not just when they decide to pick up the phone and call you or when they walk into your store. And asking them to become fans of your page on Facebook means that they are eligible to receive 1 to 2 updates a week from you whenever you post to your Facebook page about new discounts or new products coming out. And this is really the strength of Facebook, is that Australians already spend such a large amount of time on the platform, and while they're there talking to their friends, it's also a good time for them to learn about the businesses that they're connected to.
Sure. Are you saying that Australians spend more time on Facebook than other nations?
Can't get into the specifics there, Robert, but
okay.
We're really happy with just how often people are using the platform, because at Facebook, it really isn't about us and how often they're using Facebook. It's really about the amount of time that they're spending time with friends and people and the things that they care about. So we're happy whenever that happens.
I'm sure. Okay. Now, another question. How often should I update my Facebook page? Michelle sort of touched on this a little bit in her presentation, but what's your thought in order to keep followers, likers interested? How often do you think a small business should update their Facebook page?
We think in general at least 1 to 2 times a week, but it really depends on the type of business that you run. For example, we oftentimes see that with restaurants, sometimes they update their Facebook page 3 to 4 times a day, an hour or 2 before lunch and also dinner, just to let their fans know what's on the menu, what discounts there are, around the same time that their customers and prospects are thinking what to eat for lunch.
Okay, so again, what you're saying there is just be very mindful of what you're talking about, not just how often and when you do it.
That's right. It's not just looking at the quantity of posts, but also at the quality, and thinking about, and perhaps even talking with your existing fans and customers to see how often they'd like to hear from you. But in general, we recommend a minimum of 1 to 2 posts per week.
Sure. Okay, one thing we find actually at Flying Solo we have our forum community and we have our Facebook community, and it's they sit obviously in different places, and I must say they are very different people, or they respond differently as well. I know if we ask a question on Facebook, we can get sort of 20 or 30 responses pretty well as soon as we finish posting the question. So very, very responsive certainly is our observation of people on our Facebook community. So there's one other particular question here. It says the question is, can you tell me about Promote Your Comment? How does it work, and what should I use this for?
So promote your comments. I'm going to guess that this means promote your post, which is a new feature that we've recently launched.
Okay.
What happens today is that when you post on your Facebook page, not all of the fans of that page automatically receive the updates. For example, when Wine Market Australia posts to their page, even though they have 20,000 fans, not all of those fans will receive the update in their newsfeed. And the reason for this is, as a user of Facebook, if you imagine that every brand you're connected to on Facebook, when they post on their page, you would receive an update, there would just be an overwhelming number of posts and of messages in your newsfeed. Promote Your Post have to do with businesses first posting on their page, seeing very good interaction with the fans that have read that page, and then deciding to pay a bit more to extend the reach of that post to more people. So if you have a post that's working well, we would recommend promoting it to more of your fan base in order to get more of a response.
Okay. Okay, so this is, as you say at the opening there, this is a new feature. So, we're familiar with Facebook rolling out lots of new features. So thank you for that response. So another question I've got here is, how do you recommend using polls on your Facebook page, or any other particular features within Facebook that you think we should use to engage audiences? So polls is the key point.
Yeah, absolutely. There's different things that you can use, and we find that the most engaging content has to do not just around text, but also posting pictures, posting videos, and asking questions. So one example that I'll give is from a company called Squishable, and they make stuffed animal toys. And oftentimes, before they launch a new product, they'll post to their page and say, we are thinking about launching one of these 3 stuffed animals. Vote for your favorite one, and that will be the one that we end up making. And we find that that's important, not just from a market research standpoint, but it also makes their customers and their fans feel ownership and an affinity towards the company. And they feel good about voting because they feel like they have the decision-making power to then pick the stuffed animal that ultimately gets made. So we think polls are a great way not only to learn more about your customer base, but also to give them say into things that they normally might not, such as what should my next product be, and in the case of Community Coffee, what sorts of discounts would my fans value the most? Okay,
well, I think on that stuffed animal story, we might break with questions there. I should just reiterate, if I can, to those listening that general questions we'll be answering on the Driving Business Online site in a couple of days, so we'll put that up on the webinar section. Any personal questions for each of the speakers, their details are shortly going to be coming on screen. So any personal questions, please just direct them to the speakers involved, as we can't answer on their behalf. So look, we're running very close to the top of the hour, I notice, and if you have any further questions, as I say, please just look at those details on screen now and follow those, and we will respond, or they will respond. And finally, at this point, I'd like to thank Andy again, and I'll hand back to Emma Hunt, Head of Small Business for PayPal, to close today's webinar. Emma.
Thanks, Robert. Wow, what a lot to think about. That's been quite an hour. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling really inspired by some of what I've just heard from Michelle and Andy. I definitely didn't take enough notes. So just again, as Robert's mentioned, the webinar will be available on the Driving Business Online website in the next couple of days, and we'll also be emailing a copy of it out to everyone as well. So don't panic if you think you might have missed some of the content. Also, definitely have a look at the Driving Business Online Roadshow schedule, as we might be coming to near to where you live in the coming weeks. The team's in Coffs Harbour next Wednesday, and then in Hobart on the 5th of September, and after that visiting Adelaide, Melbourne and Perth. So do check out the schedule and book in to come and see us if you happen to be in one of those locations, because we'd love that. Again, thank you very much to our speakers this morning, Robert, Michelle and Andy. And thank you for joining us. Time is a very, very precious commodity, and we really appreciate you making the time to join us on the webinar this morning. Stay tuned for our next webinar and for the details of what we're going to cover in that at the end of October. And actually, if there's particular areas that you'd like us to focus on in that upcoming webinar, then my contact details are up on the screen at the moment. So do shoot me an email and tell me areas that you'd like us to cover in the next webinar, and we can try and do that. So thank you again very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Good morning.